What's going on, everybody? Glad to finally be back for another episode of the Tyrone.tv sports vlog. My name is Ty. I'm your host once again. Got a jam-packed show for you today. I'm going to talk about go over the games from the past week in the NFL. I'm going to talk about the picks. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Bills and what's going on up there. But first, I want to go ahead and get right. I'm just going to get right into the vlog today. I want to get the Knicks out of the way. I'm not going to talk about the Mets and the Sabres today. I'm going to wait till later on in the week to get into some stuff that's going on with those organizations. But today I want to talk about the Knicks real quick, and then I'm going to get right into my recap of last week's NFL games. So the Knicks won last night. They came back. They were down 10 points at the half. They beat the Utah Jazz in Madison Square Garden, 106-101. Again, the Knicks were down 10 points at the half. They were down 12 at I think midway through the third quarter, but came back, had tremendous games from Tim Hardaway Jr. He had another great game, 26 points and 6 rebounds. KP, Kristaps Porzingis came through again with 22 points, and the much maligned point guard recently for the Knicks, Frank Ntilikina. He had some key plays down the stretch. Didn't have the greatest game statistically. I believe he had 7 points, had about 4 assists. He had a couple of steals, but he had some great plays down the stretch. Did a good job running the team, getting the guys, getting other scorers involved in the offense. Kept the flow of the offense going as they made their comeback. So he had a really solid game for the Knicks. Now, the reason why I say much maligned is because during this past few days, there's been a lot of chatter from around the NBA about some comments that LeBron James made regarding whether or not the Knicks should have drafted him instead of a terrific player for the Dallas Mavericks, point guard named Dennis Smith Jr. Now, I'll admit on draft night, when I believe, trying to remember who picked before the Knicks, but I know the Knicks had the 8th pick, I think, and then Dennis Smith Jr. went 9th. So I was hoping the Knicks would have drafted him. I don't follow college basketball that much. I'm just gonna come right out, full disclosure with that. However, just doing some scouting, looking at the scouting reports, looking at some things that he did in pre-draft camp and also in college. I thought he was, would have been a perfect fit for the Knicks. It was a need for the Knicks at the time, a player of his with his skill set. However, the Knicks decided to go the international route and draft Frank Ntilikina. Hope I'm pronouncing his name right. If not, I apologize, my brother. I will get it right the next time. However, LeBron James basically made some comments, saying, and I think a lot of it was just hype building up to the Cavs and Knicks game that was played earlier this week, which the Cavs came out on top in that one, I believe 104-101, and King James proclaimed himself the king of New York and all this other stuff, but that's another subject. Again, I thought that the comments, they had some validity to it. However, again, it's so early in the season that it's really, really hard to ascertain where these players are going to be, not just, the rest of the season, but 2, 3, 4 years down the line. I mean, as a guy like Dennis Smith Jr., is his play now going to be sustainable over the duration of this season and seasons to come? Is Frank Ntilikina's, is his game going to evolve more in what the Knicks are trying to do in their basketball program. So those are the things you got to take into account. After draft picks are made, and I'm also going to get into this a little bit with the Bills in a second. When draft picks are made, these teams more than likely, unless they're number one picks, unless they're surefire number one draft picks, you really don't know what you're going to get. You really don't know what you're going to get. A lot of it's a crapshoot. I mean, look at the Patriots and Tom Brady. I mean, I know I'm getting off into football, but look at him. I mean, he was a sixth round draft pick and is now considered by many, including myself, the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Probably one of the best players to ever play the game. I think when it's all said and done, you can say what you want about the Patriots. You can say what you want about Brady and all that, but yeah, he's one of the greatest players of all time, so you never know. You just never know. And especially in the NBA where, these picks don't typically pan out, things happen, guys get injured, guys can't adjust to the NBA life because these guys are so young when they come into the league, 19, 20 years old. Now, I mean, before, back in the early 2000s, when I was coming up, I mean, you had guys coming into the league 17, 18 years old, straight out of high school. And you see what happened to a lot of those guys. A lot of those guys didn't pan out. Now, you got your exceptions. KG was he was one of the first in the era where I would say that, I kind of, came of age. You had guys, back in the day, I believe Daryl Dawkins was a high school player, came out of high school, and you had some guys, and Sean Kemp, of course, you can't forget about him. He also came straight out of high school. But again, with the exceptions, Kevin Garnett, Kobe, Tracy McGrady, LeBron. I mean, those four to me probably stand out amongst the best players to ever come out of high school in the NBA. So again, you have to always take in consideration the youth of these players, and even back in the day when those guys were coming up and coming into the league, you had a lot of guys come out of high school that did not pan out, couldn't adjust to the NBA life. Just you couldn't, their bodies weren't ready, to play and things of that nature. So again, you got to take those things into account. And I'm going to be patient with the pick. Last night, if all intents and purposes, it showed some flashes of what Frank Ntilikina can do. So we'll see how that goes, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play a lot more, and looking forward to seeing the Knicks play a lot more. They're now 8-6 on the year. They play Toronto next. Believe they play Friday night, so that'll be a good game, and I'm looking forward to listening to that on the radio because I'll be at work. but yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing more from the Knicks. All right, now let's get into the NFL. Oh my goodness, a lot of stuff happening since the last vlog. I want to apologize for not putting one together sooner, but I was out of town and I was with the family, and when you're around your family, when you're around your babies, you just want to be with them. So I had no qualms about putting this off until today, so I could get back into the flow, get a little bit of rest, and be able to give you guys some good content, some classic material. So let's get to it. All right, now the Bills. Bills lose big to the New Orleans Saints, 47-10. I had this game all wrong. Apparently, they were just completely outplayed, completely outclassed, and completely outcoached. In this game, the Saints they came in wanting to run the football, or found success running the football tremendously. Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram each had over 100 yards. Mark Ingram had 3 rushing touchdowns, and again, guys on the Saints just they just dominated the Bills front seven and on the defensive side. So good game offensively for the Saints, not so much for the Bills. Tyrod Taylor had, probably his worst game as a pro, and that's now led to which everybody knows now, his benching in favor of Nathan Peterman. I believe he was a 5th round draft pick by the Bills this year. I have mixed feelings about this move. I feel like it's a knee-jerk reaction to two losses in a row, games in which the defense didn't show up. Now, granted, the Bills' offense has kind of been struggling. They haven't really been putting it together, but offenses struggle in the NFL. You're not going to get week after week. You're not going to get guys putting up 250, 300 yards, 50 yards on the ground from your quarterback position, I'm speaking of. And then you're not going to get 100-yard rushers every single week. It's just not sustainable over a 16-game schedule. With that said, continuity and keeping the team somewhat together and not fragmenting the team is key, I think, to having a successful team in the NFL. Look at the New England Patriots. They are the blueprint for that. They've had the same quarterback and same coach since the year 2000. Now, how do you? I mean, and they've won what, 5 Super Bowls? I mean, that should tell you right there, you need to find some continuity. And granted, Tyrod may not fit the mold of the prototypical NFL quarterback. But with that said, why would you take him in the first place? Why would you get him from Baltimore? I understand that this regime of the Bills wasn't responsible for that. However, if he doesn't fit your mold, why would you start him at the beginning of the year? Why would you, have him restructure his deal and all this other stuff? I just don't. Really think it's a knee-jerk reaction on the Bills' part. With that said, however, I am kind of looking forward to seeing what Nathan Peterman can bring to the table. I really, really hope that the Bills aren't predicating their change on the last drive of the game, or I believe it was one of the last drives of the game where he went like 7 for 10 for 70 yards and a touchdown. If they're basing their decision on that small body of work, then yeah, we're as Bills fans, we're again in for a world of trouble with this regime, with Sean McDermott and as a head coach and and those guys. So I'm it's going to be interesting to see. He's going to have a really, really tough test this week, I think, against the LA Chargers. The Bills go out to LA to play them. It's going to be one of the 4:00 games. Chargers offensive or defensive line, has some great players on it. Joey Bosa, Corey Liuget, though he hasn't really been playing that much this year. I haven't really seen too much from him statistically. However, he's a very good defensive tackle historically. So see what role he plays in the game. Melvin Ingram. They have a lot of talent on the front in their front seven. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, the Bills can keep Nathan Peterman upright. He can get the ball downfield to some of the Bills targets, and Kelvin Benjamin, and hopefully Zay Jones will be back for this game, and of course Charles Clay, who had a couple of catches in this last game. So it'll be interesting to see. I really hope that Shady can bounce back and have a good game. He's had a couple of not so good games in a row, back to back. So we'll see what happens. Bills 5-4 still would be in the playoffs if the playoffs started today. But again, we'll just see what happens with this new quarterback situation. So, but shout out to Tyrod Taylor. I'm a fan. I'm always going to be a fan. I hope, obviously he's not going to be with the Bills next year. Wherever he lands, I hope he lands somewhere where he can flourish, where he can be utilized correctly. I really feel like, these offensive coordinators that he's played under, I don't think they play up to his strengths. I really don't. He had a couple of years, the previous 2 years when we had, oh man, his name is escaping me, but the offensive coordinator we had, that came in a couple of years ago. He I think had a good, they had a good game plan. When he was under Rex Ryan, that guy, I can't think of his name off the jump. If you guys remember, send me a message in the subscription box, in the message box. But I gotta move on. They had a good game plan, I think, in a good They basically had a good a solid plan as far as him, in the offense. He put up not the biggest numbers, but he, was able to, minimize turnovers, have a high completion percentage, and be able to use his legs to make plays. And I think that's the type of player that he is and that he needs to be. I'm not going to compare him to Cam Newton. However, they have somewhat a similar skill set. Cam Newton has a much stronger arm, I truly believe, and is obviously a lot bigger than Tyrod. But when you're talking about guys who have quarterbacks who have speed, who can move, and who are very elusive, you have to find ways to make it, let them be more successful, and don't be so upset or so adamant about him staying in the pocket. Let the man do his thing. Naturally, he's an athlete. He's an athletic quarterback. Let him move around. Let him get outside the pocket. Roll the pocket away from the line of scrimmage, so that way he can find guys deep downfield. Receivers can improvise downfield and things of that nature. I think he would thrive in that type of scheme. So again, salute to Tyrod Taylor. I think you're a phenomenal player. You just need to be in the right system, and I hope you find that. And the Bills, hopefully they made the right decision in putting in Nathan Peterman. Hopefully they don't flip flop and stick to their guns. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Done with the Bills. Now let's move on to the rest of the games. The first game I'm going to talk about is the Packers and the Bears. The Packers came into the game with a 4-4 record. Chicago at 3-5. I thought this game, would be more in favor of the Bears, given the struggles of Green Bay and everything like that previous weeks. But it looks like Brett Hundley is getting more assimilated into the offense and getting more comfortable in the offense. So with that said, the Packers win this game 23-16, dropping my picks record to 0-2 so far. But again, Brett Hundley had an efficient game throwing the football. One of the keys for the Bears that I had was running the football. Getting Tariq Cohen, who didn't do anything in this game. I believe he only had a couple of touches in this game, and also Jordan Howard, who had about 54 yards rushing. So the Bears couldn't establish a running game, and that's not a good thing when you got rookie quarterback playing for them in Mitchell Trubisky, who actually had a decent game statistically. He had 297 yards and a touchdown and no interceptions. So hopefully that may be a sign of things to come. It may be a sign of him getting more comfortable in the offense. So hopefully that'll carry over for the Bears, going forward. And as far as the Packers go, a big win for them. They stay, kind of in that thick of the NFC North race. The Vikings are kind of at the top of the food chain in that regard, and Detroit is trying to stay right with them. But the Packers and Detroit have the same record at this point, so we'll see how it goes. It may be a much closer race than once anticipated. So Good big win for the Packers. Next game for the Packers, they play at home against the Ravens, who come in at 4-5, and the Bears. Their next game will be at home against the Lions. So, maybe the Lions slip up in this game. Maybe Bears might have something for the Lions. These games are always close. NFC North, matchups. They kind of beat each other up. So. We'll see how that goes, and I'm going to give my picks for all the games this Friday, tomorrow's episode. Going to give my pick for tonight's game at the toward the end of this vlog. All right, next game. Lions defeat the Browns 38-24. The Browns actually had a lead in this game. It was a lot closer game than the score would indicate. Deshaun Kaiser actually had one of his best games as a pro. I think he had around 240. I think he had like 247 yards passing, had like 57 yards rushing, had a passing touchdown and had a rushing touchdown. So hopefully again that will be a sign for the Browns and Browns fans that maybe he's starting to come along and starting to get more used to the offense. But it was the Lions game. Matthew Stafford again. He's the new comeback kid. It seems like every week you cannot count the Lions out. They always manage to show up in the fourth quarter, have big fourth quarters, and this game was no different. He had 249 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Golden Tate was a recipient of 97 of those yards and a touchdown on 6 receptions. So again, Lions played well. Didn't turn the ball over. Did what they had to do to get back into the game and eventually or actually take the lead toward the end and get the victory. So good win by the Lions. The Browns. They're 0-9, unfortunately, and this week I don't see them, getting that first win. They play a much improved Jacksonville Jaguars team who comes in at 6-3. They're coming off a win, and I'm going to get to that game in a second. The Bears. Again, the Lions. Again, they play in Chicago against the Bears. So again, NFC North matchup, going to be interesting to watch. All right, next game, Tennessee. They prevailed over the Bengals 24-20. I had them winning this game 17-16. So it was a bit, it was a close game. I knew it was going to be a close game. I knew both teams were going to come in and try to try to establish, their weapons, the things that they do. And, it was no surprise. I mean, you had AJ Green for the losing Bengals, had 5 catches for 115 yards. But, DeMarco Murray, one of the running backs for the Titans, had 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, that was the story right there. The Titans also had 180 yards rushing in this game. I believe they had like 4 rushers to get over 50 yards or close to 50 yards rushing. It might have been three 50-yard guys and a 20-yard guy and a 30-yard guy, something like that. They had 5 guys get substantial yards in this game. So they're sharing the ball, they're sharing the wealth. That's a good recipe for success, especially for later on in the season when the weather starts to turn and you need to rely on your running game. It's good to have multiple options when you're in games like that come playoff time and come toward the end of the season. So again, good win by the Titans. They have I didn't put their next game here, but I'm pretty sure I'll catch it going down here. But each team, played well. Just Titans just had too much for the Bengals on the ground. So that was the story of that game. All right. Next game, Pittsburgh Pittsburgh defeats the Colts 20-17. Now, had Pittsburgh, and I think a lot of people had Pittsburgh going in and routing the Colts, but the Colts led most of this game. They led the game 17-9 at one point. But Jacoby Brissett had a huge turnover down deep in Colts territory, or in Colts territory, and it was through an interception. I believe Shazier caught the interception for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that there got Pittsburgh back into it. Big Ben then threw a touchdown pass. Don't believe it was the pass to Juju Smith-Schuster. It was to another guy, but his name is escaping me right now. But anyway, the Steelers got a couple of scores late. The Colts did a good job against Le'Veon. He had 26 carries for just 80 yards. But if Le'Veon's getting his touches, then that means that the Steelers are doing what they need to do to win. That's the key to all Steelers victories going forward is get Le'Veon the Bell. Le'Veon Bell has to touch the ball 30 times a game. If he gets the ball 30 times a game, then the Steelers are probably going to win the game at this point. So. They did also hold Antonio Brown in check. He only had 3 catches for 47 yards, but did have a big catch toward the end of the game that set the Steelers up for the win in the end. So big win by the Steelers, good win by the Steelers. It could have been a trap game, but it wasn't. And so the Steelers are plugging along. They're 7-2, and the Colts they fall to 3-7 on the year. So. Big win by the Steelers. All right, next game. Jets, Jets, lose to the Bucks. They lose 15-10. I had the Jets winning this game. I had them winning 20-14. The Jets needed to get, McCown needed to have a good game. He didn't. He did not have a good game. Ryan Fitzpatrick beats his old team. No running game to speak of for the Jets, and I think that's what did them in the long run. And Tampa's defense was stout. Once again, they had 6 sacks and they forced 2 turnovers. So again, no running game, turn the ball over, quarterback isn't protected, equals loss for the New York Jets. So yeah, so each team. They're kind of struggling right now, but Tampa, they're finally, getting back to hopefully get back to their winning ways. They're now 3-6. They play Miami next, and the Jets. Their next game is against who they play next. I'm sorry, I didn't put down the Jets' next game. I apologize for that, but I'll talk about that on Friday or tomorrow, and talk about who they play next. I apologize I didn't write it down, but it is what it is. All right, next game. The Vikings come out on top, beat the Skins 38-30. Minnesota got out to a big lead, but the turnovers, in the fourth quarter, DJ Swearinger had a couple of picks for the Redskins. They kept the game closer than the score would indicate. The Vikings at one point led like 38-17 in this game, and it was all Case Keenum had a huge game throwing the football. He had over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did throw a couple of picks though. And Adam Thielen for the receiver for the Vikings had 8 for 166 and a touchdown. So he had one of the better receiving games of the week for the NFL. So salute to the Vikings. Good game by them. The next game they play will be at home against the Rams. That's going to be a huge game. Very good. I think it's going to be a very good game. And the Skins, they play against the Saints, so they go down to New Orleans to play against the Saints, who are won 7 straight. So we'll see, we'll see how that goes. Could be a tall order for the Skins, but you know, when you got Kirk Cousins behind center, you're always. I think the Skins are always going to be in games. He's a gamer. He's a guy who's not going to let them fold. And is a good leader. So yeah. So hopefully the Skins can go down there and make it a competitive game, if not get the win. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right. Next game, Jags beat the Chargers in Jacksonville 20-17 in overtime. Huge interception thrown by Phillip Rivers in overtime. Probably one of the worst times to throw an interception if you're going to throw one. This is the story with Phillip Rivers. He's always trying to gamble and make these big throws, but I really think he needs to take a page from the Tom Brady's, the Drew Breeses, these quarterbacks that are a little bit older, maybe not quite have the arm strength that they had when they were 30, 31 years old, But he's always doing this, and it always does the Chargers in. And I really hope and pray he does it this week against the Bills. I really hope he does. But it'll be just my luck as a fan of the Bills that the Chargers will finally give him the ball to Melvin Gordon, get him the ball, running the football, passing him the football. They're going to probably go to that game plan, and they're going to win the game. That'll be just my luck, but that's just my pessimistic and neurotic side of being a Bills fan coming out into the forefront there. But again, it was, the game, the Chargers got the ball back. They stopped the Jags, and then they got the ball back. They were deep in their own territory, the Chargers. Why aren't they running the football? Why aren't they giving the foot? Granted, Melvin Gordon didn't have the best game, but Austin Eckler, guy who they, had, took a lot of carries away from Melvin Gordon this game, was having a good game running the ball and catching the ball out of the backfield. Why are you being so? Be a little bit more conservative in those situations when you're deep in your own end. If you're at the 50-yard line, I can understand that, because you're not putting your defense in a bind where they have to stop these guys, on a short field. When you're deep in your own end, why are you throwing into double coverage and against one of the best secondaries in the NFL? They got at least 2 of the best corners in the league. The Jags do, in AJ Bouye and Jalen Ramsey. So what are you thinking when making that throw? I don't know. It's only one throw, and I'm not here to I'm not bashing Phillip Rivers. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just saying, why? I'm not even a Chargers fan, but it's just frustrating to watch them play sometimes, because they do this every single game, and it seems like every single time they lose, it's as a result of a Phillip Rivers interception in the worst possible situation. So again, hopefully he'll make those mistakes against my Bills. Looking forward to I don't know. I can't even really say I'm looking forward to the Bills Chargers game this week, again, because the situation where they got rid of they benched Tyrod. But I don't know. We'll see. And there's also been some talk that Rivers might get benched. So, but for Kellen Clemens, I don't really see that as an upgrade personally. I think they would be making a mistake doing that. If they had a young quarterback like the Bills do, then they probably would have already went to him personally. But again, we'll see how it goes. All right. So again, Jags win this one 20-17. Josh Lambo had the game-winning kick for the Jags. The Jags play at Cleveland this Sunday. I mentioned that previously when talking about the Cleveland game. And again, Chargers play the Bills at home. We'll see how it goes. All right, next game: Rams defeat the Houston Texans 33-7. Game was not the game was a complete blowout. Jared Goff and Robert Woods, they had that connection clicking, and they've been clicking the last few weeks. I'm glad I had both of them on my fantasy team this week. Played them both and did phenomenal. And my team did phenomenal, and so did theirs. Robert Woods had the best game for a receiver this year. Had a 94-yard touchdown. Again, these long touchdowns. I mean, where was this when he was playing for the Bills? I don't know. Was it because Tyrod was in? Was it because of the offensive scheme? I don't know. So hard to decipher that one. But Robert Woods is just flourishing in this Rams offense, and big ups to him. Salute to him, and I'm glad to see it. Again, they lit up the Texans D. Rams have now won 4 straight. The Texans, they're going the other way. They've lost 3 in a row, which looked like to be what was going to be a really promising year for the Texans. Something that their city needed after the hurricane and everything. I know the Astros won the World Series, and that's terrific. That's an amazing accomplishment for that city, for that team, for that organization. However, everyone knows Texas is a football state. They live for football down there, and so. So for the Texans to have such a bad year so far, I mean, there's still time left in the season. There's still a lot of games left. They still, but that AFC South, race is getting, it's starting to, the Titans and the Jags are starting to pull away from the pack. So the Texans got to get back on a winning track here pretty soon. They play Arizona this weekend. That'll be a pretty interesting game. 2 teams I think are kind of in similar, in kind of similar places. The Texans lost their starting quarterback for the year. Arizona lost their starting quarterback for the year. Arizona, they added AP. The Texans, they have strong running game. They did not in this game, but in previous weeks with Lamar Miller. Each team has dynamic receivers in Arizona with Larry Fitzgerald, and Texans with DeAndre Hopkins. So again, two teams that and they also each have the dynamic players on the defensive side of the football. The Texans, they lost J.J. Watt. Let's not forget that they've lost a lot of players. They don't have Brian Cushing due to suspension, but they do have Jadeveon Clowney, who's playing up to his up to where they picked him in the draft a few years back, and of course on Arizona's side they got Patrick Peterson, they got the Honey Badger. So each team has some really good players, real talented players on each side of the ball. So that'll be an interesting game to check out. So I'm looking forward to watching that. All right, let's move on to the Falcons and the Cowboys. Falcons dominate the Cowboys 27-7. Again, Dak Prescott, sacked 8 times, and that's what happens when you lose your starting running back. And now it appears that Ezekiel Elliott's going to serve out a 6-game suspension and won't appeal. He's not going to play again until Christmas Eve. That Cowboys offensive line, has been much heralded the past couple of years, but this last game was not one of their hallmark games. 8 sacks given up, 6 by Adrian Claiborne, who apparently got some nice bonuses for reaching milestones in the sack column this year for him. So salute to him and congratulations to him. And again, the Cowboys without Ezekiel Elliott, they don't look like the same team, and it's going to be interesting to see. They play Philly this week. in Jerry World. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe Dallas will come out and establish the I don't know, try to establish the running game with the guys that they have. Against Philly's defensive line, I don't know if that's going to happen, but it may be more of the same next week for the Cowboys. So we'll see. Atlanta, they lost Devontae Freeman to a concussion. He's in concussion protocol right now. So hopefully, they'll have him. They're going to need him against Seattle next week. They play in Seattle. Matt Ryan. I know the Seahawks are down Richard Sherman for the year with the ruptured Achilles, and I believe. But I do believe that Earl Thomas will be back next week. So and they did re-sign Byron Maxwell, so they brought him back into the fold. So I don't know how much that's gonna play into the game, but Legion of Boom is starting to get some guys back and kind of become themselves again. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully Tevin Coleman can have a good game for the Falcons. He had 83 yards on 20 carries last week, and I believe he scored a touchdown. So yeah, be interesting to see. That'll be a good matchup next week. All right. Moving on, San Francisco finally got in the win column. So salute to the 49ers. They win 31-21 over the Giants, who fall to 1-8. Lost season looks like for the Giants. I see a lot of changes happening for that team in the offseason. I don't know. Will they win a game? I don't know if they'll win another game this year. Personally, I mean, there's so much that team is in so much disarray with the head coach and the players kind of not playing for him and things of that nature. Just not good things going on for the Giants this year. The Niners got their first win of the year, and a former Bill, Marquise Goodwin. I want to send a special shout out to him. He had an 83-yard touchdown, though he experienced some tragedy this week. He lost his daughter was born. I believe it was his daughter was born stillborn. My condolences to the Goodwin family. And just want to send my prayers and thoughts to you, and hopefully you can press forward after this tragedy. And then with that, and then CJ Beathard, the 49ers quarterback, he had a good game throwing the football. He had 288 yards passing and 3 total touchdowns. I believe one of those was a rush and two were passing. So good game by him. Hopefully, he can keep that moving forward. In the next after the bye, 49ers have a bye this week, and the Giants, they got Kansas City in New York, so we'll see. Kansas City, they're coming off a loss, I believe. So they're going to come in fired up. Their offense is still dynamic, and the Giants, they have no defense whatsoever. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. All right. Now let's talk about the Sunday night game. New England dominates the Broncos 41-16. Another typical Tom Brady game in Denver, or on the road, I should say. 266 yards and three touchdowns. Touchdowns of 3 different players. Broncos special teams, they had a complete meltdown in this game. In the first half, in particular, they gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown, a 103-yard return. I believe it was Deion Lewis who returned it, and New England got a block punt. You just can't. Those things just can't happen, especially at home. especially when you have the home field advantage and you've had all this time for preparation. You cannot allow these mishaps on defense to happen. So, or I shouldn't say all the time for preparation because they had about the same amount of time. But coming off of the loss in Philadelphia, that huge blowout loss, you would think that Philly would come in and have or I'm sorry, Denver would come in and have a better game than what was shown, but just a quarterback situation is just not a strong suit at this point for them. So we'll see what happens. They're now 3-6. They've lost 5 in a row now, something like that. So yeah, it's not going good right now in Denver. But they play Cincinnati at home. So hopefully Denver can get back on the winning track in that game. New England plays Oakland in Mexico City, so that'll be an interesting game to check out. Good game to watch. That the stadium, I believe it's a Estadio Azteca. Huge stadium. I believe it seats 103,000 people. So it'd be like Tom Brady playing back in Michigan. So that'll be an interesting game to check out. And I believe altitude may play a factor in this game as well. So I know that New England just played in Denver, where the altitude is 5,000 feet above sea level. Mexico City is like 9,000. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how New England responds to that. I know New England's going to prepare. They're going to come into the game ready to play, I believe. I don't think it'll be a factor, but it is something to think about when you consider playing back-to-back weeks. Maybe it'll be a advantage for New England. Maybe it'll be a disadvantage. We'll just wait and see. All right, Monday night game. Carolina rolls the Dolphins 45-21. Huge game by Cam Newton. I watched most of this game with my son. So my little boy, 6 months old. So he's gonna be a little football fan pretty soon, I think. The game was completely dominated by Carolina. Their offense was clicking. Cam Newton had 254 yards passing, 95 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns. Again, I told you this in during the preview of this game. Cam Newton needed to have a big game with his legs. He had to make plays with his legs. He had a 60-yard run in this game. That tells a story right there. That's all you need to know from that. And then he made some nice runs early in the game to set the Panthers up. He had this one run where he slid right before the Miami defender just was about to just dive right into him. It was nice. So that was a good run. And again, a big win by the Panthers. Jonathan Stewart, he had 110 yards rushing. Carolina's defense, they slowed down Miami's passing game, for the most part. Jay Cutler, he had about 240 yards passing or so and 1 touchdown, but he threw interception to Luke Kuechly. In this one, who's Luke Kuechly, he's one of the premier, if not the premier, middle linebacker in the National Football League, and so it goes without saying when he's on the field for the Panthers, they are at a huge advantage on that side of the ball, going up against opposing teams' offenses, because he just runs that defense like Cam Newton runs their offense. So again, big win by the Panthers, who are on a bye this week. Will enjoy this win and come back in a couple of weeks. Miami, they play at home against Tampa, so that'll be an interesting game. Tampa, they're going to get Mike Evans back. Hopefully he'll show out for the Bucks coming off the suspension. And then the Dolphins, they're going to try to get back on the winning track, but the formula that they have right now, where they don't really have a running game, though. One of the running backs, his name is escaping me right now, but he had a big run last week. So, but he still only finished with like 87 yards. He had like a 60-yard touchdown, but he had like 87 yards rushing. So, with that said, Carolina does have a tough defense. So maybe Miami can exploit Tampa in some way, but Tampa's coming off a big win and a big defensive game too, so that'll be an interesting matchup. All right, now let's talk about my picks for this week. Went 10-3 in the picks. Again, the three losses, were in the early games. The Bills, the Jets, and who was the third one? Oh, and sorry. Oh, and the Bears game. I didn't pick that one correct. So apologize for that brief lapse there. But looking forward to picking the games this week. Hope you again. This is for entertainment purposes only. But we'll see how I do this coming week. All right, and the first game I'm going to pick for this week is the Thursday night game. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Tennessee Titans, a classic AFC Central, old AFC Central game. If you guys remember that they used to play in the same division back in the late '90s, early 2000s after the Titans moved from Houston to Tennessee. Pittsburgh's going to win this game if they limit turnovers. Obviously, Big Ben can't be throwing picks all over the field. And of course, Le'Veon's got to get his 25 to 30 touches. If he's got the ball in his hand, the Steelers will win this game. Period, point blank. But the defense also has to make sure they keep Mariota under pressure. Force him into some mistakes, and we'll see how well he does against the Pittsburgh defense that's playing a lot better now. And the Titans, their keys to winning is to force the Steelers to throw the football. If they could get Big Ben throwing 50 plus times in this one, keep Le'Veon's touches under the 25 carry mark, then they have a really good chance to win in their running game. If the Titans do what they did last week against the Bengals against the Steelers, if they can repeat that, they have a really, really good shot in winning this game. However, I got the Steelers winning this game 27-17. We'll see how it goes. It's gonna be an interesting matchup. I'll be listening on the radio on Westwood One more than likely. So it'll be a good game, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'm done. I had a tremendous time again recapping the games. Tomorrow I'm going to come back with the recap of tonight's game, and I'm going to go over all my picks for this Sunday. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mets and a little bit about the Knicks and a little bit about the Sabres. I'm going to try to squeeze a couple lines in about them in the beginning, and then I'll get into the NFL picks in the recap of tonight's game after that. So again, thanks again for watching. If you let me get some social media stuff out there for you, and I'm going to put this in the description box. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my handle is at MRTYECEE. So at Mr. Ty C, all one word. I'm on Facebook, but I don't really go on Facebook that much. But you can send me a message there. I don't take friend requests from people that I don't know. So you can just send me a message, and then I'll check messages and see if anyone sent me a message. But my name, Tyrone Canyon, you can find me there. Let's see where else. Yeah, and of course, you can go on to the blog. Official website is Tyrone.tv. So you can just go on there. You can catch previous episodes. You can also catch previous episodes here on YouTube. But I would appreciate if you checked out the blog page as well, just to get those hits. All right, guys. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Peace.